The first time Adéyẹmí saw the dead bride, she was standing beneath the water. Not floating, not drowning, standing. Her white lace gown billowed around her like a cloud trapped beneath the brown gold current of the Osun River. Her eyes were open, her lips were blue, and on her left hand glittered a wedding ring that looked exactly like Adéyẹmí's own. The dead woman lifted one pale finger to her mouth. "Do not marry him," she whispered. Then the river swallowed her. Adéyẹmí woke screaming before dawn, her wrapper twisted around her legs and sweat shining on her forehead. Outside, the compound was still asleep. The old mango tree behind her mother's house clicked softly in the harmattan wind. Somewhere far away, a rooster cried as if it had seen something terrible. Her mother, Màmá Rónké, pushed open the bedroom door with a lantern in her hand. "Yemi, what is it?" Adéyẹmí sat upright, pressing one hand against her chest. "I saw a woman in the river." Her mother froze. Not for long, only the length of one breath, but Adéyẹmí saw it. Màmá Rónké said, "Dreams are like market gossip. If you carry every one of them on your head, you will break your neck. Drink water and pray." But she was dressed as a bride. Màmá Rónké set the lantern down too hard. The flame jumped. "Enough!" Her voice was as sharp as cutting palm fronds. Adéyẹmí had known her mother all her life. She knew the difference between anger and fear. This was fear. And fear in a woman who had buried a husband, raised a daughter alone, and faced unpaid school fees with a straight back was not a small thing. That morning, the family compound was full of wedding noise. Aunties arrived wearing bright Ankara and louder opinions. One brought kola nuts, another came with a bag of dried fish and a list of things the groom's family had promised to provide. The younger cousins chased one another around the courtyard, chanting, "Bride, bride, bride," until Màmá Rónké threatened to send them all home without jollof rice. In 3 days, Adéyẹmí would marry Oluwadamilola Adebayo, Dami, the man who had waited 4 years for her. He was everything a mother prayed for after life had been cruel to her daughter. Handsome without being proud, educated but respectful, successful but generous. He owned a small construction company in Ibadan and built a new borehole for Adéyẹmí Street when the old one failed. When her mother fell ill the year before, Dami had taken her to the hospital himself and sat outside the ward all night. Even the elders liked him, and elders did not give their approval cheaply. His family came from Ilagbon, a river town where the Osun River curved through thick forest and old shrines. Their house was grand, with red earth walls, carved wooden doors, and a courtyard large enough to host 3 generations at once. His father, Chief Adebayo, was a respected man, quiet, wealthy, and always dressed in immaculate white. His mother had died many years ago, but his grandmother, Iyalode Morenike, ruled the household with a silver walking stick and eyes that missed nothing. Adéyẹmí had grown to love them, or at least she thought she had. By noon, Dami arrived with his younger sister, Bisi, to take Adéyẹmí to Ilagbon for the final marriage rites. They came with gifts, baskets of oranges, yam tubers, wine, fabric, soaps, and a covered tray carrying a pair of coral bead slippers. When he saw Adéyẹmí, his smile softened. "You look tired." "I didn't sleep well." He took her hand gently. "Wedding nerves?" She wanted to tell him about the dead bride. She wanted to say, "I saw a woman with my ring beneath the river, and she told me not to marry you." But the courtyard was full. Her mother was watching. The aunties were watching. Even the children seemed to pause in their games. So she smiled. "Maybe." Dami leaned close and lowered his voice. "In 3 days, you will be my wife. Whatever is worrying you, we will face it together." His words were tender. His hand was warm. But as Adéyẹmí looked into his eyes, she noticed something strange. Around his wrist, under the sleeve of his cream agbada, was a thin red mark, like a rope burn, or like something had once tried to pull him under. The road to Ilagbon was lined with cocoa trees, banana leaves, and villages that seemed to sleep beneath the afternoon sun. As the car moved deeper into the countryside, Adéyẹmí watched the sky darken with clouds. Bisi sat in the back seat beside her, chatting about the wedding. You will see how my grandmother has decorated the house. Ah, she has been behaving as if the governor himself is coming." Dami laughed from the driver's seat. "Grandma believes every important event must be witnessed by the entire town." "That is because she knows how to do things properly," said Bisi. "Not like these Lagos people who marry in a hall and go home before the soup gets cold." Adéyẹmí smiled faintly. "Will there be a lot of people?" "Everybody," Bisi said happily. "The elders, the women's association, the drummers, the church people, the palace representatives." "Stop frightening her," Dami said. But then Bisi's expression shifted. Her eyes flicked toward the river visible beyond the trees. "And the river people," she added quietly. Dami gripped the steering wheel. "Bisi." "What?" she said, suddenly defensive. "It is our tradition." "What river people?" Adéyẹmí asked. "No one," Dami said, "just old stories." But Bisi had already turned toward the window. The rest of the journey passed in silence. Ilagbon was beautiful in the way old places could be beautiful. Not polished, not easy, but alive with memory. Women sat outside their shops plaiting hair or shelling beans. Men gathered beneath an ancient Ilagbon tree to argue over football and politics. Children ran barefoot through the red dust. Every doorway seemed to hold an old face, and every old face seemed to know the Adebayo family. As Dami's car entered the compound, women began ululating. "Ọkọ ọmọ wa ti dé! The husband of our daughter has arrived." Adéyẹmí stepped out smiling, but she felt it immediately. The river was close. She could not see it from the courtyard, but she could hear it. A low, patient sound beneath the voices. Water moving over stone. Rónké came forward in a deep blue iro and buba, her white head tie rising like a crown. Her face split into a smile when she saw Adéyẹmí. "My child," she said, embracing her, "you have brought light into this old house." Her voice was kind, but her hands were cold. Too cold. The old woman held Adéyẹmí for a moment longer than necessary, then whispered into her ear, "Do not go near the river after sunset." Adéyẹmí pulled back, but Rónké was already smiling for the guests. "Come," she called, "let us welcome our bride." That evening, after food had been served and the compound had settled, Adéyẹmí sat on the veranda outside the room prepared for her. The women had decorated it with flowers and white curtains. The bed was covered in new sheets. On the table lay gifts from Dami's family, perfume, jewelry, and a mirror framed with cowries. Màmá Rónké had not come with them. She had claimed she needed to remain at home to supervise the cooking for the wedding guests. But before Adéyẹmí left, her mother had pulled her aside. "If anything feels wrong, come back." "Why would anything feel wrong?" Adéyẹmí asked. Màmá Rónké looked toward the road. "Because sometimes a woman's heart knows danger before her eyes can see it." Now, sitting alone beneath the moonlight, Adéyẹmí heard a soft knock. She turned. Bisi stood in the doorway holding a small tray with 2 cups of zobo. "Can I come in?" "Of course." Bisi placed the tray down, then sat beside her. For a while, neither woman spoke. The night insects buzzed in the grass. Somewhere behind the compound, a drum began beating slowly. "Are you happy?" Bisi asked. Adéyẹmí considered the question. "I love your brother." "That was not what I asked." Adéyẹmí looked at her. Bisi's face had lost its usual playfulness. "Are you happy?" "I am trying to be." The younger woman nodded, as if that answer confirmed something. Then she reached into the pocket of her wrapper and brought out a folded piece of yellowed paper. "I found this in my mother's old box," she said. "I think you should read it before the wedding." Adéyẹmí unfolded the paper carefully. It was a photograph, faded at the edges. A young woman stood in front of the Adebayo house in a wedding dress. She was beautiful, with a round face and solemn eyes. Beside her stood a younger Chief Adebayo and a boy of perhaps 16. The boy was Dami. The bride wore the same coral bead slippers now sitting in Adéyẹmí's room. "Who is she?" Adéyẹmí asked. Bisi swallowed. "Her name was Tola." "And?" She was supposed to marry my brother. Adéyẹmí stared at the photograph. Supposed to? Bisi's voice trembled. She disappeared the night before their wedding. The drum beat behind the compound stopped. Adéyẹmí felt the air change. What happened to her? The town said she ran away. My father said she was ungrateful. My grandmother said nobody should speak her name again. And Dami? Bisi looked down at her hands. Dami never spoke about her. After that, he left town for university. He did not come back for years. Adéyẹmí's fingers tightened around the photograph. Why are you telling me this? Because there were others before Tola. A wind moved through the courtyard, lifting the corner of the photograph. Bisi's eyes filled with tears. Our family has a secret, Sister Yemi. And secrets are like snakes in a clay pot. You can pretend the lid is closed, but one day they grow too large to remain inside. Before Adéyẹmí could ask another question, a harsh voice cut through the dark. Bisi. Chief Adebayo stood at the far end of the veranda. He wore white as always, but his face was not calm. Bisi rose immediately. Go inside, he said. Father, now. Bisi looked at Adéyẹmí once, helplessly, then hurried away. Chief Adebayo turned his attention to Adéyẹmí. My daughter, he said, with a smile that did not reach his eyes. Young people enjoy frightening themselves with old tales. Do not let foolishness spoil your joy. What happened to Tola? The smile disappeared. You will marry my son in 2 days. That is what matters. Then he walked away. Adéyẹmí did not sleep. At midnight, she heard wet footsteps outside her door. 1, 2, 3. They stopped directly beneath her window. She held her breath. Then came a woman's voice, soft as water slipping over stones. Do not wear the coral slippers. Adéyẹmí jumped from the bed and pulled aside the curtain. No one stood outside. Only the moonlit courtyard, empty and silver. But on the ground below her window were wet footprints leading away from the house, towards the river. At dawn, Adéyẹmí went looking for answers. She did not tell Dami. He had been called away to inspect materials at a building site. She did not tell Iyalode Morenike, whose warning now sounded less like a care and more like a command. Instead, she followed the path behind the compound. The Osun River announced itself before she reached it. The air grew cooler. Tall grass bent along the narrow path. Trees leaned together overhead, their roots like black fingers gripping the soil. Then the forest opened. The Osun River moved before her, wide, bright, and deceptively calm. Morning light shimmered across its surface. White egrets stood along the far bank. Beautiful beads and tiny coins had been placed near a carved wooden post under a silk cotton tree. Adéyẹmí knew enough to understand that this was not a place for careless feet. She removed her slippers and stood respectfully at the edge. Who are you? She asked the water. Nothing. Then a voice behind her said, A river does not answer people who come demanding. Adéyẹmí turned. An old woman stood on the path, carrying a basket of leaves. Her back was bent, but her eyes were clear. She wore a simple brown wrapper and strings of white beads around both wrists. My name is Iyasewa, she said. I take care of this side of the river. I am sorry if I offended. You are the bride from the Adebayo house. Yes. Iyasewa studied her face, then sighed. Then your offense is not yet yours. Adéyẹmí stepped closer.
Please, tell me about Tola." The old woman's expression hardened. "That family still send young women into the dark?" "I don't understand." "No, you do understand. Your spirit understands. That is why the drowned girl visited you." Adéyẹmí felt cold despite the sun. Was Tola drowned? Iyasewa looked across the water. Years ago, the Adebayo family was poor. Their land was dry. Their children were dying. Chief Adebayo's grandfather went to the river and begged for prosperity. He promised what greedy men always promise when they believe they can bargain with powers greater than themselves. What did he promise? The first bride welcomed into his family in every generation. Adéyẹmí's mouth went dry. No. He promised a daughter-in-law dressed for marriage, offered to the river before she could become a mother. In return, the family would know wealth, sons, long life, and honor. Adéyẹmí shook her head. That cannot be true. Truth does not become false because it is ugly. The old woman placed her basket down. At first, they chose women from poor families, girls whose disappearance caused only whispers. Then they learned to hide the death inside wedding traditions. A bride would be told she must perform a private cleansing before dawn. She would be dressed in white. She would wear coral slippers. She would be led to the water. The family says the bride is taken by the river because she is chosen. But I have seen their fear. I have heard their cries. The river did not ask for their brides. The river never asked for blood. Then why do they do it? Because when evil brings a man wealth, he begins to call it tradition. The word struck Adéyẹmí like a slap. What about Dami? She asked. Iyasewa's silence was an answer enough. Adéyẹmí stumbled back. No. You must leave before the wedding night. But if I leave, what will happen?
To you, you will leave. And the women who died. Iyasewa's eyes sharpened. Do not confuse survival with cowardice, child. You are not responsible for every sin that happened before you were born. But Adéyẹmí thought of the dead bride in the river. She thought of Tola's solemn face in the photograph. She thought of the wet footsteps at her window. I cannot just leave, she whispered. Then you must decide whether you are a bride or a witness, the old woman said. Dami returned before sunset. He found Adéyẹmí sitting beneath the mango tree, the faded photograph in her lap. For one long moment, neither of them spoke. Then he saw the photograph. His face changed. Where did you get that? Your sister gave it to me. Dami sat slowly beside her. Tola, Adéyẹmí said, tell me the truth. His jaw tightened. There is nothing to tell. Was she supposed to marry you? Yes. Did she disappear the night before your wedding? Yes. How? Dami stood abruptly. Why are you asking me this? Because I saw her in my dream. Because your sister says there were other brides. Because I went to the river and someone told me what your family does. The sound of the river seemed to rise behind them. Dami's face went pale. Who did you speak to? It does not matter. Is it true? He looked away. That was the moment Adéyẹmí understood that the man she loved had been carrying a locked door inside himself, and he had never given her the key. Dami, she said, is it true? His shoulders fell. When I was 16, I saw something. His voice was barely audible. My father woke me before dawn. He said I was old enough to understand the responsibilities of our family. I followed him and my grandmother through the forest. Tola was there. Adéyẹmí stopped breathing. She was crying. She wore white. My grandmother held her hand. My father said it was an old rite, that she had agreed. But she looked at me, Yemi. She looked at me as if I could save her. His eyes filled with tears. I did nothing. The words hung between them. I was afraid, he continued. My father said if we broke the covenant, the family would be ruined. He said our younger cousins would die. He said the river would take everything. And I believed him. What happened to her? Dami covered his face. She ran toward the water. My father and the men went after her. I heard her scream. Then there was silence. Did they drown her? I don't know. You don't know? Adéyẹmí stood, shaking. You saw them take her to the river, and you don't know? I left town the next day. You left? I was a boy. And she was a girl. Dami flinched. Adéyẹmí's voice broke. You let her die, then you left her inside that river. I have never forgiven myself. But you are going to marry me. I was going to stop it. She stared at him. Dami stepped closer, desperation rising in his voice. That is why I came back. My father is ill. He wants to complete the rite before he dies. He believes it will secure the family, but I refused. I told him I would not let it happen again. Then why bring me here? Because I thought I could protect you. A bitter laugh escaped Adéyẹmí. You brought me into the house where women die and thought you could protect me? I thought if I stayed close, you cannot protect me from a secret you refused to tell me. Dami had no answer. The first drops of rain began to fall. Adéyẹmí picked up the photograph, pressed it into his chest, and walked away. That night, the storm came. Rain beat against the roof. Thunder rolled across the sky. The compound filled with darkness after the generator failed. Adéyẹmí lay awake, fully dressed, with a small bag packed under the bed. She had decided that before dawn, she would leave. She would walk to the main road if she had to. She would find a bus. She would go home to her mother. She had no duty to die for a family's crime. Then she heard a cry, not from outside, from inside the house. A woman crying, low and broken. Adéyẹmí rose and followed the sound through the dark corridor. Lightning flashed through the high windows, illuminating old family portraits, carved doors, and a long line of wooden masks hanging on the wall. The crying led her to a small locked room near the back of the house. The door was slightly open. Inside, Iyalode Morinike knelt on the floor before a wooden chest. The old woman was weeping. Adéyẹmí had never seen her cry. Iyalode, Adéyẹmí said softly. The old woman turned, startled. Her face was wet with tears. For a moment, she looked very old. Then she said, You should have gone. What is in the chest? Nothing that can help you. Then why are you crying? Iyalode Morinike looked down. Because a mother can live a long time with sin, but she cannot bury it. Adéyẹmí stepped into the room. Inside the chest were folded white garments, old wedding veils, coral beads, and photographs. Photographs of women, young women, smiling women, brides. Some had names written on the back: Moyo, Sadiat, Remi, Tola. Adéyẹmí's stomach turned. How many? Iyalode closed her eyes. Too many. Did you kill them? Iyalode's lips trembled. I once was like you. I came to this house as a bride. I was meant to be the offering. Adéyẹmí looked at her in disbelief. What? My husband's mother pitied me. She had already lost a sister to the river. She helped me escape. But the elders found another girl from a poorer family. They told me it was not my business. They told me I had a child to think about. She touched the photograph of a young woman. That girl was my friend. You let them take her? I was afraid. The old woman looked up, grief blazing in her eyes. Fear does not wash blood from the hands, child. It only explains why the hands were shaking. Adéyẹmí could not speak. Yalode continued. I spent years telling myself that I would stop it, years waiting for the right time. But evil is like flood water. If you do not block it at the beginning, it enters every room. Why didn't you tell Dami? I tried. His father had already poisoned his mind with fear. He believed the family would fall without the sacrifice. And now? Now Chief Adebayo is sick because the covenant is breaking. Tola did not die quietly. Her spirit has troubled this house for years. Your arrival has awakened what we buried. Adéyẹmí thought of the dead bride beneath the water. What does the river want? Yalode's eyes moved toward the storm outside. Truth. Before Adéyẹmí could ask more, the door slammed open. Chief Adebayo stood there, holding a lantern. Behind him were two men from the family compound. His face was dark with rage. So this is what you are doing to his mother, filling the girl's head with poison. Yalode rose shakily. It is time to end this. It ended generations ago. You are the one digging it up. You cannot come murder a tradition. Chief Adebayo's eyes flashed. You know nothing about what it takes to preserve a family. I know what it costs, she said. He turned to the men. Take the bride to her room. Dami appeared in the corridor behind them. Father, no. Chief Adebayo swung toward him. You have disappointed me since the day you ran away. I was a child. And now you are a man. Act like one. I will not let you touch her. The thunder cracked so loudly that the walls seemed to shake. Chief Adebayo raised the lantern. You think this is about me? You think I enjoy this? I have watched this family survive because we honored what our fathers gave us. You want to throw away everything, our name, our land, the lives of your siblings, for a girl you met in the city? Adéyẹmí stepped forward. I am not a girl you met in the city. The room fell silent. I am a daughter of my mother. I am a woman with a name, and I will not die to protect the wealth of men who are too cowardly to face their own crimes. Chief Adebayo's expression changed. For the first time, he looked afraid. Then the rain stopped. All at once. The silence was worse than thunder. From somewhere outside came the sound of water rushing through the compound. One of the men ran to the doorway and shouted, The river! The Oshun River had risen over its banks. Water poured through the courtyard, sweeping calabashes, sandals, and chairs into the darkness. The old mango tree groaned. Guests screamed from their rooms. Children cried. The family rushed outside into the rain-soaked night. The river had come to the house. And in the water, standing under the lightning, were women in white. 1, 2, 3, too many to count. Tola stood at the front. Her face was pale, but her eyes were no longer sad. They were furious. Chief Adebayo dropped to his knees. No, no, we honored the covenant. The water swirled around his legs. Then a voice came from the river, deep and clear. You honored greed. Everyone heard it. The elders, the children, the men who carried the brides, the women who looked away. The truth had entered the compound, and there was nowhere left to hide it. Chief Adebayo backward, but the water followed him. Dami stood between his father and Adéyẹmí. What do we do? He shouted to Yalode. The old woman took off her coral beads and dropped them into the flood water. We confess, she said. Chief Adebayo stared at her. You would destroy us? No, she replied. I would save what is left of us. She turned to the gathered townspeople. Her voice shook at first, then grew stronger. My family killed innocent women. We called it sacrifice. We called it destiny. We used the river's name to cover our shame. Gasps moved through the crowd. Yalode pointed toward the wooden chest that one of the women had brought outside. Every bride, every name, let them be remembered. Chief Adebayo rose, wild-eyed. Do not listen to her. This is madness. But then Bisi stepped forward. I saw Tola. I saw her too. All my life I had her singing near the river. Another elderly woman came forward. My sister disappeared here. They told us she ran away. A man with a scar across his cheek raised his hand. My mother was one of them. Then another voice, and another. For years, fear had kept the town silent, but fear is strongest when it is alone. Once people began speaking, it shrank. Chief Adebayo looked around at the faces turned against him. His own family, his own town. He backed away until his heels met the flooded edge of the compound. I did what my father taught me. Yalode looked at him with unbearable sadness. And now you must choose what your son will learn from you. The water reached Chief Adebayo's waist. Tola stepped closer through the river. Say our names. Chief Adebayo shook his head. The water rose to his chest. Say our names. His pride held him like a chain. Then at last he broke. Moyo, he sobbed. The wind died. Sadiat, the river slowed. Remi, Tola, all of you, I am sorry. His voice broke on the final words. I am sorry. The women in white began to fade. Not vanish, fade like mist lifting from water at dawn. Tola looked at Dami. He fell to his knees in the flood. I am sorry, he whispered. I should have helped you. For a long moment, she watched him. Then she placed one wet hand on his head. You cannot return the dead, but you can stop feeding death.